Hello, I'd like to share with you what I've learned on how teachers can help their students with ADHD become more successful in the classroom. First of all, a teacher's mindset is essential for the success of the student. If the teachers are constantly focusing on the students' poor attention spans and poor planning skills and all the negative aspects, then they're not really thinking about how they can best help the student. On the other hand, teachers who are thinking about the positive aspects of that student, they are always looking at their environment, they react to new things really well, they change their strategies when one doesn't work in the classroom, and they're very flexible. The teacher who can identify these positive aspects of the student will be better able to recognize how they can structure their classroom in order for that student to be successful. Just as Gardner promoted designing lessons around the multiple intelligences of students so that the students could have lessons that they would be successful with, students with ADHD would do well if teachers would identify their strengths and design lessons that they can be successful with. Sherman, Rasmussen, and Baidala recommended several things in order to offset the learning of the student with ADHD. Teachers can implement more hands-on lessons in the classroom. This can really help the students with ADHD be more engaged in the lessons. Teachers could also use shorter instruction times. Even if you're going to cover the same information, if you break it up into smaller chunks, move on, and then come back, then the student with ADHD may be more able to learn all the information presented than if you would present the information all at once. If teachers have a student who really needs new stimuli, then one really simple thing they can do is rearrange the desks in the classroom periodically. The student with ADHD may begin to feel trapped if they're stuck in the same desk in the same part of the classroom with the same people every single day of the school year. However, rearranging the desks every week or so can really help them to engage with those people and to really engage with their environment because they are not sitting there feeling trapped. That feeling can really hinder their learning, so they will be more successful if they're in this new environment than they would be stuck in the same place every single day of the school year. Besides these three strategies that teachers can implement, Sherman, Rasmussen, and Baidala offered so many other very specific strategies that teachers can implement. This is one reason that I really loved their research. So many researchers focus on the theoretical aspects of their research and never mention these practical tips that teachers can use in their own classroom to actually implement the ideas of the researchers. Sherman, Rasmussen, and Baidala offer so many things that I would love to implement in my own classroom. In demonstrating the hands-on lessons that a teacher can use in the classroom, they suggest using games and representing ideas using paint and clay and skits. I think these are so important because I can remember in middle school when we had to represent vocabulary words with clay and skits, which may have been weird, but I actually remember those words so much more than I did the ones that I had to match a word with a definition. They also suggest using graphic organizers to help students prepare for tests and get all the information laid out in an easy to understand way, as well as planners to help prioritize tasks that the students have to do. I think these are really great to implement in a classroom because they will not only help the student with ADHD that struggles with this, but also the other students in the classroom as well. I think that's a big part of why I really liked this article. There were so many tips that would help all the students in the classroom because not only the students with ADHD are going to struggle with some of these things, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and another student may have a similar weakness even though they're not diagnosed with ADHD, but these supports can really help those students as well. So I really like a lot of their suggestions and I would actually implement them in my own classroom. I think this article really covered the topics so that I'm not really confused about anything that was presented. However, there is one thing that I would really like to know more about. Sherman, Rasmussen, and Baydala mention a study that compared how well students with ADHD did in a classroom that implemented Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences versus a traditional classroom where students had to sit quietly at their desks and listen as the teacher lectured instead of using any hands-on aspects of the lesson. As expected, students performed so much better in the classrooms that use music, kinesthetic learning, and spatial representations to facilitate learning. I found this study very fascinating and I would really like to know more about how implementing Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences really helps students with ADHD. I would like to leave you with my theory on the matter. I believe that in those classrooms, the teachers really looked for the strength of the students and designed their lessons in order for those students to be successful. The students could be more successful because the teachers recognized their strengths and designed their lessons for the students to be able to demonstrate their knowledge in a way that makes sense to them. I think this should be the goal for all teachers because it not only helps the students with ADHD, it helps every student in the classroom be as successful as possible.